Hello, welcome to the second episode of It Ain't New, the show that represents the history of ethnic minority groups in the USA and where knowledge becomes power. If you don't know, now you know. I'm Bella,
Estar,
Nike,
your very real hosts. Today, we are diving into the K-drama that has hit SM recently in this episode and why we are each interested in this particular issue. So the characters you want to keep an eye on are as follows. We have Isuman, the godfather of K-pop and the creative mind of SM Entertainment with large influence in the industry today. We have SM Entertainment, the biggest agency of Korean media. Kakao, a tech company that is also the largest distributor of K-pop. Isuman's nephews in top management at SM Entertainment. HYBE, and Bang Si-hyuk. These particular characters are large players in the K-pop industry, and how this plays out will impact how the industry functions and how it presents itself to fans in the future. And this kind of corporation takeover is not new in any way. This has been a part of history since businesses came into being. One of the examples that I've been thinking about this entire time that we've been talking about this is actually Disney and their buyout of 20th Century Fox. And when it comes to Korean companies, CJ is also an example of a company that buys other companies. To me, this is actually particularly interesting, mainly because of how the companies that are involved in this particular SM buyout might restructure internally. Like if certain departments might be dissolved or have certain positions terminated entirely, and how far up the chain those terminations go.
Right. I mean, this entire situation, K-drama, whatever you want to call it, literally came after SM's annual TED Talk. For those of you that don't know, every year SM Entertainment hosts a TED Talk-like thing alongside their New Year's concert. At this TED Talk, SM's CEO at the time described the history of SM and where SM was going. Basically, SM 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0, which is where they were headed. In 3.0, there was this discussion of new groups being debuted and also like where they were going business-wise. Soon after, business news comes out of Korea that Kakao, a well-known tech company, now has become like the largest shareholder in SM Entertainment. This happened while Isuman, who was the largest shareholder at the time, while he was out here in the United States, basically trying to make moves for K-pop and for SM Entertainment. Now, a lot of people call it saying he was Jessica'd out of his thing. So if you ever pay attention to second gen K-pop, then you'll know the reference that I'm talking about. But basically what happens is, he's all of a sudden now he has to go back to Korea because this happened without his knowledge. So he flies back to Korea and then we hear he broke his arm somehow. And on top of that, HYBE actually purchased his shares. So HYBE now becomes the largest shareholder and basically is in the position of where Isuman was, which again, Isuman as the creative mind behind everything and all of that. So of course people are like, wait, where is this happen? How does this happen? Like when were they talking? That's literally the question we still want to know. Now, Bang Si-hyuk and Isuman then interview together, and they're talking about how this partnership is supposed to be great for K-pop globally and for the future of K-pop, because everyone's worried about the future of K-pop somehow. The nephews then go onto YouTube, and they call this a hostile takeover. They were very particular about saying hostile takeover. Mind you, you just did something with Kakao without the largest shareholder's knowledge. Okay, so what's hostile? Anyway, then after that, HYBE and SM open up a joint a Twitter account to say, like, this is what we're doing and all of that. But a few weeks later, like literally this happened within the span of like 3 weeks. Later, HYBE pulls out and lets Kakao buy the shares. It's only kind of sort of over right now. Like I say, we're probably in episode 5 of 16, like not even halfway through because there's still things happening. Like there's still things coming up. And the reason why I'm really interested in this is because SM Entertainment is the company when it comes to Korean popular entertainment. Like, they control, well, I wouldn't say control, but they have their hand in everything from acting to being an idol to being a model. Like, literally anything that has to do with entertainment, you will probably come across SM at some point. And a lot of people at SM already were basically following the creative direction of Lee Soo-man. Like, everything from his actual creative company was what people followed and what they liked. So I had already kind of expected when he was planning his like retirement that there was going to be a mass exodus. No one actually left because he was still kind of sort of in control creatively. But now when Kakao gets involved and when HYBE gets involved, they're like, what the heck is happening? So now this basically was like a K-drama that made me wonder what's going to happen to K-pop as it's defined already by SM particularly. I was kind of worried about like a lot of their 3.0 moves, because how in the world are you supposed to debut like a large number of groups from one company, not just in general, but from one company when it comes to concepts. And they haven't given us any other information except the number of groups they're going to do. And how are you going to do that in a year and we're already in April? Like, how? And so it really doesn't make sense, especially in the K-pop context, and especially if you want to succeed in the industry and then globally. Like, there's no background for that.
So what did I find compelling about this K-drama, right? And I felt like it had all of the classic K-drama tropes, right? There's infighting, there's backstabbing, secret alliances, generational family drama, nepotism, evil villains posing as heroes. Like, this is all classic K-drama stuff, right? But the reason why I got involved was because this beef was personal for me. Kakao, like it was mentioned before, is one of the biggest distributors of K-pop, and so they have a huge music catalog. And when complications came up surrounding a licensing agreement that was up for renewal, Kakao actually took, for a short amount of time, took their music catalog off of Spotify, aka the big gray out of 2021. Right. And so myself, as a premium Spotify user, losing access to that music abruptly with no explanation left such a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, you never mess with me and IU, right? So when I find out Kakao is getting up into SM's business, and in kind of a shady way, right? Possibly buying enough shares to have a significant minority say, and therefore some measure of control over SM, my first thought was Kakao bad. Keep Kakao away, right? Kakao, in my mind, was already not doing so great because they own Melon Music, which is the biggest streamer in Korea. But guess what? If you don't live in Korea, you can't access Melon app, right? This is a company that wants to increase K-pop's global share, but you can't even use their streaming app outside of Korea. Like, make that make sense, right? And at the time of recording this podcast, Lee Soo-man has stepped away from being CEO. And I get it. SM needs to figure out like who they're going to be and what they're going to produce after being outside of his shadow. But 3.0, just where did it come out from? You know? And so this is why if I had to pick a fave in this drama, I was rooting for Bang Si-hyuk, right? And so in relation to that, like HYBE. Because out of every player in this, I trusted him the most to have the clearest eyes about the whole situation. Now, I'm not saying he's an angel, right? At the very bottom of it, he's still a businessman. And so he's possibly just the least evil of the choices out there. But I trusted him to try to come up with the best possible outcomes for everyone, including artists, company employees, shareholders, fans, all of them, right? Because in my opinion, Lee Soo-man, as a CEO, unfortunately, I think he drank his own Kool-Aid a long time ago, right? And believing in his own hype, that's the beginning of the downfall of a CEO, I think. CC Elon Musk in real time, right? And so without knowing all the details and how he set it up that his family was going to take over, all of these kinds of things, you know, it's nepotism has a design flaw, right? It's resistant to evolution because the people in there are invested in keeping things the same, keeping it in the family, right? But then the situation changes again because Bang Si-hyuk backs out. like Hybe steps out of this fight, there's still a minority stakeholder. But they let Kakao buy a bunch of their shares, the shares that they were trying to get so that they could, take care of this situation, right? To do this partnership. And so it's very unclear where this drama is going to end up. In the first week of April 2023, Kakao was actually raided by prosecution and financial authorities because there are allegations that they manipulated the market with their purchase of the shares in SM. And so in the end, I just don't know who to trust in this drama. This drama is far from over. It just seems like one of those dramas where everyone is just sleeping with everyone else behind their backs. But my question is how will the children turn out?
But I guess my question at this point is why has this been mentioned by Western media? Because we have had corporate takeovers in Asia that have gone on, that have impacted, how Asian countries have done business, but there's no talk about this in Western media. But K-pop? All of a sudden, oh my gosh, we need to cover this?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that happened when Jin went to the military. All of a sudden, everybody was like, what's going to happen to K-pop idols in the military? Who cares? We are not in Korea. Like, that's them. And then also, how many K-pop idols have been in the military? I mean, and this is also another thing. No one knew what to do when he was going to the military because they didn't, we're all multi-fandom. When one group goes to the military, you've probably got solo stuff you can pay attention to. You've also got other artists that you can pay attention to while that person technically takes a break. But then it's also because Western media almost has to pay attention to K-pop. I mean, you also put it on, you put it on mainstream doors, essentially. So if you don't pay attention to it, then all that. Because, I mean, we were talking about it. This technically actually all started, we want to say more like 2013. Mm-hmm. So it's starting in 2012, 2013. No one would have paid attention to it had it happened then. They would not have cared because no one knew. In fact, BTS hadn't even debuted yet.
I think BTS debuted in 2013.
Yes, June of 2013. So BTS debuts and all of that.
I mean, just to bring up a point, Gangnam Style came out in 2012, right? How many of you know that Psy has military drama?
Right.
Number 2 most YouTube views in history. Did you know that he had drama? Western media wasn't reporting on that back then.
Or the fact that he was in the K-pop industry for 20 years. They think
he's not a one-hit wonder in Korea.
Right.
Far from it.
Very much so. And it's almost because it's happening now they're like, oh shoot. Probably what are we gonna have another Gray out? Is that really what we're worried about? Are we can't make money off the K-pop stuff anymore.
If that's what they're worried about, I'm like, yo, this younger generation's got things figured out. They're gonna get their music no matter how they want it.
I mean, we also got our music the way we were gonna get it too.
So then why is Western media interested?
My question that I'm kind of trying to figure out is there something else that perhaps is being avoided? If they're covering this, they're not covering something else. You know what I mean? So if they're covering K-pop and using their limited space on their websites or in their airtime, they're not covering other issues.
This is our discussion of when did Western media even start paying attention to K-pop? When was the first time we ever really heard or saw on some major Western media outlet about K-pop? And what was that actual subject?
And I think what we need to clarify, we're not talking about Korean American tabloid websites.
Right. We're talking CNN, BBC, even freaking KTLA was on. Why is KTLA asking about that? You're not talking about, that kid who was raised in, you're not talking about Joshua from 17.
Yeah.
You're talking about people who probably had little to do with anything in America and still technically have literally nothing to do with America.
Absolutely true.
So you're trying to say that this is maybe just clickbait stuff.
This is, I think, one of the things that they can get people to click on, read, and go, oh, because if K-pop is a trend like we've been thinking it is, right? This is one of those things where it's like, oh, what's going on? I want to keep up with it. I want to keep up with this, but I only want to keep up with it because it's the cool thing to keep up with. And for anyone who's paid attention to the route that news media has gone in the last couple of years, is they need people to click on their articles. And if it's not trending, they don't really care.
I mean, look at even the headline that they chose out of that whole article or the whole interview with Bang Chi-hyuk on CNN. What did they choose as their headline? It was a headline that he made one comment about how he doesn't think that K-pop is going to like be listened to in the future. Like how worried he is that K-pop is dying already in America. And it's like, wait, what? K-pop has been a global thing since it kind of came out. Like, what are you talking about? There's people still going to listen to it. No, it may not be on, TV as much as it was, but it's still going to be listened to. It's still going to be pretty popular. It's still going to show up in Billboard. Like, I don't understand, but that's the headline that they chose when he actually did mention a whole bunch of other things about why they even came to America in the first place. But no, it's K-pop's dying. Like hip-hop is dead. Like, what?
Yeah, everything's just dying all the time.
Time, it just keeps going.
Exactly.
So what I'm also taking away from this conversation right now is that with all the changes that are for sure coming down the pipeline, whether it's pre-planned for or now a consequence of these actions, that K-pop is going to evolve. We just don't know what it's going to look like.
And if we're going to like what it's going to look like.
I take comfort in that I still have my collection of old K-pop songs. And by old, it's second gen songs.
That might be the smart move moving forward.
If you have the money to retain your library.
Why is that even a conversation? That is so sad, but that it's so true.
All right, so just a reminder, this is just our take on the situation right now. We'd love to hear your opinions of what's going on through comments on Twitter at @itaintnew, PDCST, or Instagram at @itaintnewpodcast. Thank you all for listening to It Ain't New, where if you don't know, now you know. We're Bella.
Estar.
And Nike.
Please show us some love on Spotify by leaving us a rating or a review, and join our Patreon so we can grow and continue to give you all wonderful content.